Hey, ChocoGoob here, and I'm just making a small video talking about an issue that I feel is important to me in the League of Legends community. Um, Personal accountability is something I see as lacking, and it lacks in a lot of games, and often in a lot of real-life scenarios, but it becomes especially important in League of Legends, which I'll get to in a minute. You might first be wondering, what is personal accountability? Most people might know what it is, but most people might be sort of confused about why I'm talking about it here. Personal accountability is essentially just being accountable to your own actions, right? So it's owning up to the fact that you maybe made a mistake, right? You do something wrong, you say, that was my fault, I needed to do better, right? That's what personal accountability is. And that's lacking in League of Legends. A lot of people are probably now going, oh, I know what you're going to talk about, right? Because what happens in a lot of League of Legends games is someone will be, they'll overextend, they'll choose a bad engagement, they'll do something, they'll make some sort of mistake, their character will die, but instead of saying, wow, my bad, I really shouldn't have done that, they'll turn on their teammates and blame them. They'll say, why didn't you call out the MIA? Why didn't you tell me that person was missing? Why didn't you come help me when I engaged the team? Why was I the only one going in? Why was I the only one pushing? They'll say all of these things, and they will deflect the responsibility from themselves onto their teammates. In a lot of other games, like StarCraft 2, for instance, when you're not personally accountable to your own actions, it doesn't generally bring the game down for other people, right? You're hurting yourself because you're not getting any better, but if you start raging at your opponent because you made a mistake, they're still sort of enjoying the game because they're beating you. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really matter if you rage at them. Some people will get hurt by it, admittedly, so it's definitely still not a positive. But for the most part, if you're sitting there going, roaches are OP, why you use a new brace? People are like, whatever, I'm beating you. It's all good, right? In League of Legends, it's different, though. If you start raging at your own teammates, they're not in that situation where they're winning. They're probably losing right along with you. So when you rage at them because you died, they can't just simply shrug it off and go, whatever, I'm beating this guy, it doesn't matter. They're like, I have to deal with this guy. This guy is my teammate. And now not only is he dying, but he's accusing me, he's making me feel like it's my fault when I know it isn't, And some people have thick skins, they just sort of shrug it off and deal with it, but other people don't, and they really don't want to deal with that, right? Maybe they worked all day, like I have that happen, I'll work all day, I'll come play one game of League of Legends before I go to bed. And the last thing I want is to be playing that game and have some guy blame me for his dying, right? Now, the reason I bring this up is because there are a lot of situations in which a player can make a mistake as a teammate and their teammate dies. That doesn't necessarily make it their fault, right? There are very few situations that I can think of in which a teammate is solely responsible for their other teammate's death, right? So let's say I'm playing Anivia, I'm running away, and I drop my wall, right? And I drop it in between myself and my ally. Now my ally can't run away, he gets destroyed by the other team. That's solely my fault. My ally was probably trying to do everything he could to run away, you know what I mean? And maybe he was a little overextended, I don't know. But either way, he could have run away were it not for the fact that I dropped that wall. It was solely my fault. In that case, that's just me being a bad teammate. And, you know what I mean? There's not a whole lot the other guy could have probably done it with better in that situation. However, that's sort of rare, right? That only happens with a select few champions with a select few abilities being used incorrectly. In most cases, if you die, it's because you did something wrong. It doesn't mean that your teammates couldn't have helped you, but it does mean that there was something that you could have done which would have changed the outcome, right? And that's what I want to talk about here, because personal accountability is lacking in the League of Legends community. Too many people will instead of realizing their own mistakes, will focus on their teammates' mistakes. So let's say you're on the bottom lane, you're pushing your lane, you've got an advantage. So you're pushing the turret. You have no wards up, you have no vision of what's happening. And right now, because you're pushing the turret, maybe you're not even focused on the minimap like you should be. So you don't see what's going on. It's a really risky situation to be in. Now, let's say by contrast, your mid partner, the ally you have that's in the mid lane, is not doing so well. They're hugging their turret, they've got low health, they're really not doing well. They've made some poor choices, and now they're suffering for it, right? They might even have to go back to their base. So they're not even necessarily paying attention to their own minimap. Now they should be. They should realize, whoa, my mid partner is gone. I should call out MIA. That is definitely something that they can do that will help people out. But maybe they don't do it. And that's their mistake if they don't do that. If they decide not to call out that MIA, if they don't realize that, that is their mistake. And because they don't, and because you get ganked, part of that is definitely their responsibility. They could have helped you out, but they didn't, right? But here's the thing. Too many people will focus on that aspect, and they'll say, you're a bad teammate. You could have called out that MIA. You didn't do it. You're a really bad player. What does that do? Does that really help the game? No. Now they're not necessarily going to be more likely to call out the MIA. You just called them out. You just accused them. You maybe even insulted them, called them a noob. They're not going to be more inclined to help you. So you haven't increased the team cohesion anymore. You've probably ruined it because now they're sort of feeling negative feelings towards you, and they don't want to help you now. Maybe now they're less likely to call out the MIA. Maybe they would have, but they just sort of forgot. They made that mistake, and now they just don't want to call it for you. And when that happens, now you have teammates fighting against each other, you're probably not going to win the game because now no one's helping each other, and you absolutely need to be able to help each other as teammates to win. Winning requires that synergy of teammates doing things, working, using their abilities together, not people playing and doing their own thing. So what happens here is you focus on someone else, and because you're focusing on them, you're focusing on something you can't control, so you're not improving the situation at all, and you're maybe even making the situation worse by insulting them, calling them out. If instead you're more personally accountable, you look at the situation a different way. Yeah, my ally could have helped me out by calling out that MIA, but maybe there was something else I could have done differently. What mistakes did I make that might have actually resulted in my death? Well, let's think about it. You had a small advantage probably in the early game where you sort of beat your lane opponents back, and they maybe had to go back to their base or whatever, or maybe turret hug or whatever. So now you're at their turret, you're trying to get a couple hits in, you're trying to do some extra farming, whatever. That's all good, but it's a huge risk for not a whole lot of outcome, right? You're probably not going to take down their turret at that point in the game, so you're not going to get a whole lot out of that. You're going to get some hits, you might get some farming, a little bit extra gold, but you're not really getting a whole lot of advantage out of that. You have a small advantage just in that you have some lane control, but that's it. If you take this risk and you're not even aware of the map, aware that someone could come gank you, if you have no wards down, you just can't see anything coming, then you're taking a risk that's just not worth it. Because if they get a kill on you, they're getting a much bigger advantage, and you've just completely lost your advantage. Now they're going to have control of the lane because you're dead, and you're going to have to run back. They're going to get gold, and all of that, and all the things that come with that. It's just not worth it to do that. And so if you sit there and say to yourself, wow, maybe I overextended. Maybe I shouldn't have pushed there. Maybe I should have gone and helped my mid partner. They were doing poorly. Maybe I could have gone, helped them push back some waves of minions so that they could sort of be in a more equal position. Or maybe say, you know what? My opponents are going to the store. They're going to come back. They're going to have items, and I'm not going to. So maybe I should go to the store too. Grab a few items. Now we're, you know what I mean? I've got lane control, and we have the same items. I still have that advantage. Either way, you're still increasing your advantage or maintaining your advantage, but you're not losing it. And once you realize those things, you say, wow, I could have controlled that. I could have made that different. And the game becomes a completely different situation. Your team isn't feeling negative because you're not calling anyone out, right? So maybe the mid lane partner calls out an MIA later. They're like, hey, MIA, and you're like, whoa, I wasn't paying attention. Good thing you called that out. Thank you, right? And you're working together in team fights. You're feeling good. And so you overcome that situation because you made a change personally. You were personally accountable to the mistake that you made, and you changed it. That's what's so important here for people to recognize. And that's why I felt so compelled to make this video. Because when I say, and I will say it all the time on the forums, when I say I'm not responsible for calling out MIAs, I'm not saying that I'm not going to do it. Because I am. Because I want to be a good teammate. But what I am saying is, I don't want you to blame me when you die. You need to realize that when you die, there's probably something that you could have done differently in order to avoid that death. And you need to focus on yourself. So that's all I've got to share with you right now. But I just wanted to sort of post that video just to sort of clarify what I'm talking about when I say that it's your responsibility and not my responsibility for things like calling out MIAs and using ultimates and stuff to save you. I'm going to do it because I'm a good teammate, but you need to be personally accountable for your own mistakes.